All right, everybody. Hello there, and happy Sunday. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about rest. We're going to talk about not rushing the process. We're going to talk about sinners. Duh. So if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know what you're doing because everybody I know has seen it at least 3 times, pretty much more than once at least. All right, I hope you all are having a wonderful start to your June. It's basically June. Hot girl summer, pretty much. Um, hot they them summer. All right, folks. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about rest and yeah. So I'm gonna lean more into these episodes being what they are, which is just me talking. I'm really bad at trying to make everything perfect all the time. And that's okay. But I'm learning how to not do that to myself and how to let myself be human and make errors and even more errors, because that's the only way that we learn is through failure and through trial and error. Failure to me is just a part of success. Success being constant trying. I don't know, constant striving for better. Can I get an amen? All right. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about more about how my husband and I discussed like the closer we get to, what society deems true success, the more burnt out we feel, the more disconnected from like the things that we find joy in we feel because obviously you're in survival mode. I mean, clocking in and clocking out is not easy. My husband typically works 10 to 12-hour days. He gets paid very well, but nonetheless, it's like hard work and it's tiring, you know? So we were talking about why that is and how to work through that. And I thought to myself, why am I neglecting the things that I know will bring me joy? I'm gonna say that again. Why am I neglecting the things that I know will bring me joy? I feel like when you are moving through life, sometimes we fight the things that we know are good for us, like a little bit of self sabotage. That's okay. It's normal to self sabotage. We fear our own success at times, but we're releasing that. Okay. There's self discovery in every single thing that you do through the hard stuff. I am learning how to separate the reluctance that I feel because my cup isn't empty and I feel like I'm pulling from a place of lack. I'm learning how to let that go and instead divvy my energy out wisely and just do the hard thing. And if it doesn't feel good, move on. Like instead of saying, oh, my anxiety is high, like, yeah, I'm gonna stay in today. No, my anxiety is high. I'm gonna go outside and sit in the grass, even though I really don't want to look at people right now. I'm gonna go outside and sit in the grass. If somebody tries to talk to me, it happens. I'm just gonna do my best. You know what I mean? Like, take things as they come, is the lesson I'm trying to live in right now. Take things as they come. I'm an Aquarius, so typically that is natural for us, but I also have a Capricorn Mercury and I have a Virgo moon and rising. So, like the unknown is not, we don't like that all the time. Sometimes I feel like things need to be planned out, things need to be designated and divvied up, and that's not true. It's okay to just let things be. Again, finding balance between what needs to be done and what we feel is an obligation that's pushed on us by the status quo. Okay. I find that when I'm asked to do things, typically, if my first instinct without thought, let's emphasize that without thought. So, like, if you give it some thought and then, that's your instinct, whatever. Again, these things are just my opinions. I want you all to take these with a grain of salt. But in my experience, if it's something that I like have a knee jerk reaction to say yes to and I don't even give it thought, then I'm typically doing that for somebody else and not for myself. So these days, one of the ways in which I'm learning to rest and process better and balance life, work, and creativity is taking a second when somebody asks something of me. Is this something that I like feel pushed to do? Is this something that, and again, discerning whether or not you are being reluctant because you're being stubborn. Like, these are hard things to do. And this is why shadow work is so necessary. Shadow work being the work that we do, confronting the things that we know we are not the best at. For example, I've worked on and continue to work on my ability to keep my word to myself and to others. So, discipline, perseverance. That's one of my shadow work tasks because I've not always been the most consistent person. Again, Aquarius like to do things that feel good. And sometimes when it's like, it don't feel good, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm bored. So I'm learning how to like push through the forging fires, push through the growing pains, because that's what's necessary at times to become a better person, to become a more well-rounded human, to become a more thoughtful human. Yeah. Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about not rushing healing. Ideally, I had wanted to post 2 episodes over the past 2 weeks, but I let myself rest and I let myself accept that it's okay to not be okay and it's okay to be overwhelmed. Grief is not a linear thing. Again, I'm still processing um, a lot. I'm just getting back into therapy. So I'm allowed to have bad days, and so are you. You're allowed to have setbacks, and it doesn't mean you're not healing. In fact, that means you're doing the healing because how are you going to work through the things if you're not feeling the emotions? If you're pushing the emotions down, they're just going to fester and resurface in one way or another, be it burnout, be it, anxiety, that insecurity about whether we're capable of doing these things that we know we can do. And this is, again, not devaluing what anxiety is. I know that it's very real. Um, and again, at times out of our control, but we have the power to trick our mind into being stronger. That's the beautiful thing about the mind. Like, our survival, anxiety is nothing but a survival mechanism. So if we kind of revert that survival mechanism in our favor and accept that, why am I anxious about this? I'm anxious about this because I feel like I might do something wrong or I might say something incorrect. Okay, well, what's the worst thing that can happen if I say something incorrect? I learned something new. Hmm, there we go. Quiet that one. You see what I mean? So, talking through it is really helpful when it comes to finding strength where you couldn't find it before. When you have these issues that keep coming up and coming up and coming up in different forms and different fights with different people, but the same kind of theme or motif, this is a call to really take a step back and ask yourself, what can I do differently this time that I've never done before? All right, let's talk a little bit about Sinners. And if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, kind of, sort of. But again, you need to see it. And I don't really think I'm going to say anything that gives the meat of the story away. It's still worth seeing over and over again because it's quite dense with information and so much. Anywho, let's talk about the good things. There are many things that, you know, this is not a critiquing moment. I want to highlight the things that we want to pull from this movie that are positive that we can bring into the real world. Um, let's talk about Black community. Let's talk about freedom in the Black community and what it looks like in a world where we're not allowed to be free, really, truly. Sorry about that. I just touched my mic. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to edit this down. I'm just going to post it because sometimes editing is what stops me from posting it. So, um, yeah, let's talk about what it looks like to be free in a world that tries to condition us to be, mental slaves, mentally enslaved. Um, Delta Slim said, "For a moment, we be free." He was talking about the juke joints, the moment of self-expression, of of singing through the pain, of dancing through the pain, of shaking it out and being left with joy and expressing your most inner thoughts that maybe the church told you wouldn't so pure. And one thing I would have really loved to see a queer relationship in this movie because I know that was happening at the juke joint. We all know that was happening. But yeah, like doing the things that society really encouraged us not to do because they knew that that was where the power lied. You know what I'm saying? So, my grandma always talked about church as an idea. It doesn't have to be a place. And in my spirit, in my church of thought, church is an activity as well. It's not just discussion. It's it's release. Church is release. It's release of all the quote demons that get put on us by society, the demons of you can't sing, the demons of you can't dance, the demons of you can't be with this person, the demons of, you're not allowed to this, that, and the third, what have you. And so in the juke joint, it was this ritual of release, this ritual of community, this ritual of manifesting the dream that they wanted for their future, this dream of, and I think we saw that as Smoke is dying. We saw his life, or I don't know if it was the past or the future, flash before his eyes. I think it was this dream of this community that he had after, the juke joint was thumping and they got their money going and they set roots and, this became a regular thing. I think he saw that when we see that vision of, everybody passing food and smiling at one another and so and so is over here as he's dying, as he's smoking this cigarette. I think that that was really what he wanted for his people. Um, and yeah, that movie, if all media is hypnotic, then why not be hypnotic words? Why not be hypnotized for the better? Why not be hypnotized with a dream of what our ancestors want for us? Why not be hypnotized with the spirit of abundance, with the spirit of we have everything we need here? We don't need anything from anywhere else. Because the reason why the vampires got in is because Stack was so concerned about making money, proving to his brother, yeah, we can do this. We can be just like them. We can set. He was so concerned with making a coin that he ignored everybody's impulse, which was leave them dudes where they lie, leave them dudes outside. And little Miss Haley, thinking she could link communities, walked outside and ignored old girl Annie. Because honestly, let's talk about it. Annie was the conscience of the movie, and had they listened to her in the first place, none of this would be going down. But that's a whole other episode in itself. So let's focus on what we're talking about here. We're talking about letting the status quo be your detriment. If Stack had just ignored that and had just relished in the joy that they were creating in that moment, it would have been all right. If he had just released to the present, if he had just went with the flow, I think things would have been okay that night. Um, and so it's really interesting when we think about in our day to day, and when I think about in my day to day, what does it look like to really be successful? Smoke said, we figured we'd deal with the devil we know. We didn't want to grind and risk our lives doing this, that, and the third. So we figured we'd do something that really, really served us from top to bottom. And I love that for them. But what does that look like for me? What does that look like for you listening to this? How does that how does your true joy look in this society? How does true community, how does true success, how does that look to you, and at what cost? So I've really been sitting with this notion of choosing where my energy is dispelled, choosing wisely, really divvying my presence wisely, being stingy with my light, um, and yeah, just being very careful where let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Being careful where I place my energy, I guess. And going back to what I said about dealing with the devil we know, and trying not to let the status quo be your detriment. right now, I'm not sure what that looks like for me, and that's okay. And if you're in that place, especially with the world being what it is, that's okay too. Um, Sit with what really brings you joy, what comes naturally to you that feels effortless. How can you feed that? Stop being afraid to dream. Belief plus action. Oops, words. Manifestation equals belief plus action. There we go. Um, my spirit has been so tired over the past like 2 weeks, and so I'm just trying to process things carefully and speak carefully. But yeah, if you believe in something, just do it. Especially if you don't have, I mean, I have a child that I have to think about. So, of course, when I make choices, I have to think about Carter. Um, However, if you don't have anything tying you down, if it's just you, just do the thing. Just go take the trip and try the thing. Do you know how many times I've like just taken the leap and taken a trip somewhere and like sign myself up for an activity and then I leave with so many new connections and inspiration that honestly propels me into a new reality? And I think that that's pretty much what life's about. Um, don't let people tell you who you are. Know who you are. Going back to Sinners, when Sammy left that party, left that juke joint, ran home, and his dad told him to give up his sinner ways, and he left home with that guitar in hand. And if you sat through those credits and you saw at the end, Sammy is sitting and saying, "This little light of mine," I think that that's, to me, that felt like him acknowledging that his light was more powerful than any darkness that anybody put on him. Because it wasn't him saying, "Yeah, this is evil what I'm doing." It was everybody else telling him that he was gonna, "Oh, this is gonna, drain you and you're gonna be miserable. This is that and the third." But Sammy said, "Nah, y'all can keep that. I'm gonna do what I know that I am put here to do, and I'm gonna do it my way." So know who you are and don't let them tell you who you are. Delta Slim really pushed, again, one of my favorite characters in that movie, Delta Slim, because he showed Sammy what he could be, if he leaned into the darkness that people put on him. But he let Sammy know, nah, this is where you're meant to be. You're meant to be here with us. But he can go and do something different with it. As everything was going down, Sammy almost left his guitar behind, but Delta Slim passed it back to him. And he said, "You know what, Sammy, I danced with the devil before. I got this. You go. You go, Sammy." And again, this movie is just so beautiful. The credit scene, to me, again, shows us that it's up to us. What are you going to do? Who are you going to be? If it's hard, so what? If you start to feel pulled towards that darkness, claw your way back to the light. If somebody don't make you feel good, get them out of your life. If somebody makes you feel less than, get them out of your circle. Sit with things and people and places that make you feel good about who you are, that make you lean into your gifts. And if you don't have that, go find it. How do you do that? For me personally, there are Facebook groups that you can look into. If there are communities that you're curious about, look into a Facebook group that resembles that community. Like, let's say you live in Florida, look up, let's say you live in Orlando, gardening communities in Orlando. That's really where it starts. Look up local community events like markets, supermarkets, for one thing, specifically ones that have vendors. You can meet a lot of like minded people at markets. It's hard making connections as an adult, especially ones that you trust, but you're definitely not going to find that if you isolate. And this is me talking to myself as well. You're not going to find it if you isolate. Your gifts are not going to chase you. Your blessings are not going to chase you. You're going to have to do the work. They're going to fly by you in your path, in your sphere, and you're going to have to reach out. And reaching out, it's in your sphere, but you got to catch it. All right. On to the next point. Um, Again, in the spirit of acknowledging that media is hypnotic, why not lean into media that hypnotizes us for the right things? I talked about Plaything in my last episode, and that episode pretty much sums it up. A collective hypnosis for the greater good. And I feel like this movie is a step in the right direction because it encouraged so many people just in my life to connect with their ancestry. One, having a connection to our ancestry is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowing where we come from is huge when it comes to knowing who we can be and what we are. Because when I tell y'all, when I found out some of the things I found out about my ancestors freed me from a lot of the, I guess, generational patterns I had seen with my own eyes. Knowing that, okay, these are the things that I have seen in my bloodline, but these are the things that I didn't know about my bloodline. So that's within me too. And even though, yeah, we can pull power from ourselves, sometimes it helps to have that image. Um, and so the fact that this movie encourages us to dig deeper into who we are, who our family is, and where our power comes from, and where our bloodline sits, I think that's lovely, and I think that's necessary. Um, Psalm 32, that is one of the most powerful manifestation and protective prayers and statements, chants, whatever you want to call it, and we all need to know it. I will I'll delve into how I feel about the fact that Remick can state that prayer and said, years ago a man stepped on my family's land and, forced these words upon my family, but they still bring me comfort. I'll talk a little bit more about that another time because that is very significant um, in the overall arc of what I'm talking about. But um, yeah, let's emphasize media that hypnotizes us for the sake of community, awakening, embracing ownership, advocating for yourself, um, reminding us to be the light for one another when the world is constantly whispering us like to do the opposite. There's so much division, and let's not get into the spiel about divisiveness because mm, for the people who think I'm talking to them, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking about device. Oh, yeah, let's not talk about race because we're dividing. No, let's talk about it because we need to embrace the difference and we need to see where the commonalities are and where we've been systemically pushed away from one another, where we actually, where the math ain't math and where we could actually be lifting one another up instead of competing. There's room for everyone. Um, yeah. So I also want to talk about how sinners and freedom, watching the vindication in front of us against the Klan was really something I did not know that we needed to see. Because I think that most, and I'm sorry if you hear me scratching my chest right now, but I think that most of the movies that we've seen in the past, especially movies that revolve around race and things like that, they give us kind of the pity ending that's like bittersweet. We got to lose something. And, this one was still bittersweet, but it really felt good to see them get murked the way that they murked us over and over and over again. And honestly, the way that we've seen it on screen over and over and over again without any reluctance. Nobody felt reluctance for our feelings when they were putting lynching after lynching after lynching on screens. So it felt really good to be vindicated in that moment. And sorry, watch the same thing happen. It didn't feel like, I mean, obviously, you're not going to, you know, I'm not talking about encouraging people to find joy out of hurting others. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about seeing a karmic resolution in real time, even on a screen, was really nice. There we go. That sums it up. And the knowledge of the possibility, and not just about this, but about anything, the knowledge of possibility is enough to plant the seed of the dream. And the dream is so powerful because in my heart of hearts, I know that a thought alone is enough to create that reality, even if it's not in the dimension before you. There's a lot that we don't know about this life, and there's a lot that we don't know about this world and this reality we live in. But I really, truly feel, and if you're with me, stay with me. This is where the folks who really are my folks are probably going to stay, and the folks who are not about what I'm about are going to leave, and that's okay. I've enjoyed having you. But I'm very spiritual, and I truly believe that a thought is powerful enough to create a reality somewhere else that I can't see. If there are so many versions of us, you know, in these quote unquote black holes, and if they can sense timelines moving in reverse in a black hole, like, who am I to believe that I am the most extraordinary thing on this planet to the extent that there couldn't be something just like me somewhere else? You know, I think we all need to be open to all possibility. And I think that part of believing in God or the energy of God or the energy of creation is understanding that creation is so vast. You got to leave room. Stop trying to put creation in a box. Okay. But anywho, uh, I want to circle back to where I started. This was very much you getting to sit in my brain. But let's circle back to where I started, releasing control and understanding that the need to release control and responsibility, like, you cannot. I have OCD, y'all. I have OCD, I have ADHD, I have ASD, and I have PTSD. These things are not my personality. They do not define me. They are personality traits. I work through them and around them. We're learning. Again, I'm learning how I address my anxiety, even in how I speak about it. Oh, and let's not call it my anxiety. I'm learning how I address my anxious feelings about certain situations because we all have anxious feelings. We don't have to claim that as, almost this other entity that sticks to us. So I release that. And I hope you do too. Um, uh, yeah, we all go through things and our body different, takes on that responsibility in different ways. So as I go inward and keep growing, those pains that I feel just keep screaming at me to release that control, and just truly accept things moment to moment. Because the more I try to fight that, the more stressed I feel, and the more I release that, the more balance I find. The more I take it as case by case, the more I have to lean in my strength. The more I have to accept that everything that is, and everything that will be, and all I can do is lean in my power. Um, I'm learning how to not enable myself. I'm learning how to not be so stubborn with myself. Um, it's not always easy to do things that are like uncomfortable, but again, there's no growth if you're not uncomfortable. I'll leave you with this because my brain is getting tired. um, as an adult, trying to find that all in crowd, if you're like me, you're the kind of person who I love very hard. And when I bring someone into my life, I intend to, like, it's giving wolf pack imprint. Like, I intend to imprint. If you're not ready to imprint with me, if you're not ready to ride or die, if you're not ready to do our best to move through the shit show that is life, no, let's reframe. If you're not ready to do your best to lift one another up through the obstacles of life, like, and I mean like through all hardships, like a covenant. It truly, friendships are covenants, okay? And if we're making covenants with people who are not truly all in with us, what are we doing? We're giving energy where it's not being reciprocated. So I'm learning how to truly, slowly, because I'm not good at it yet, but I'm getting there. I'm learning how to discern, how to find the quote, all in people, those people that are willing to do for you like you do for them, truly, without it being a transaction. Those people that are willing to, if you say, hey, like, I'm having a hard time, they're willing to, like, say, hey, job, I gotta take 2 days, I gotta go check on a friend. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to find people like that, but that is very necessary. Um, Too many of us don't find out about things until it's too late, i.e., friends who are not okay, i.e., family who is not okay. Um, I've given a lot of my energy in the past to checking on folks, and quite honestly, I'm at a point in my life where I need to step back from doing that. So if I'm not checking on you, it's not personal. It's I'm working on me, and that's okay. People are allowed to do that, but yeah, Good luck finding your people. You can do it. And if your people is you right now, that's all right. If your people is your child right now, that's all right. Again, finding that balance between being their parent and not leaning on them codependently, of course. Um, but know what you deserve. Stop settling. Stop settling for people who drain you. Okay? And stop settling for not doing the things that you know are going to feed your spirit, even if they're hard to do, even if you know, hey, I need to go to the park today, but I really am tired, my body aches. I could use a nap. Today's the only day I can nap. That nap is going to be great, but you better get outside. Okay? All right, y'all. I think that is all for today. Um, I hope you all walk into this week taking a breath. Take it as it comes. Stop trying to rush your healing. Um, yeah, take it as it comes and breathe. Thank you for sitting with me. I look forward to talking to y'all next Sunday. Hopefully, we'll see. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect, I'm just human. All right, y'all. Bye bye.